Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected. Premium Times Election Special. Comprehensive review of the just concluded presidential election. Press freedom. Women participation. Fact-checking. Discussion on the forthcoming governorship election and more. Live on Premium Times. Stay connected.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. This is Premium Times Election Special. My name is Chiamaka Okafo, and welcome to today's edition of Premium Times Election Special. And we will be discussing a range of topics leading us into tomorrow's elections, the governorship elections across several states in the country. And we'll be joined by Mojid Alabi, Premium Times' editor, to discuss issues leading to the elections, the governorship elections across the country. And big questions on our mind is to ask whether the outcome of the presidential elections will influence largely or insignificantly what the outcome of tomorrow's elections will be. Good morning, Mr. Alabi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Chiamaka Okafo. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
I can hear you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so
How's
much.
Lagos this afternoon?
Oh, yeah, Lagos are expectant of elections tomorrow. People are going about their businesses, trying to stock in their houses. I know it's quite interesting. All eyes on Lagos, and I am aware that everything is in order as of this moment. Though we cannot tell what will happen between now and evening, because there have been some kind of political oro, what we call traditional rites, being observed across some places in Lagos. That actually kicked off on Wednesday across some places like Ikate, Elegushi, Axis, some other places in Lagos. But all well and good. The Oro have always been within the night, around 12 midnight and 5 a.m. in the morning. But things are going very well in Lagos. Yeah.
Thank you for that very brief overview of what's happening in Lagos this morning. The last time you were here, we talked about what appears to be perhaps a three-horse race in Lagos and how the PDP and Labour Party candidates are giving the incumbent governor a run for his money. And we have seen him over the last week, being in different places campaigning. And for want of words, a lot of people have described his move as desperately seeking to consolidate or remain the governor of Lagos State. Now, do you see that the outcome of last elections, the presidential elections, and Labour Party winning Lagos State would also provide for shaky grounds for Sanwo-Olu in Lagos tomorrow?
Yeah, I want to believe very strongly that oppositions are very, very good. Opposition in government has always been very, very, if it is well done, and that is why some of us are disappointed that the kind of the opposition ran by APC ahead of its emergence in power in 2015 was actually lacking within the last 8 years or close to 8 years of its reign. What we saw during the last election has actually clearly shown that when people are enlightened, when people believe in, when we have strong opposition, you can actually put a lot of people, particularly those in government, people seeking positions, people seeking elective offices, you can put them on their toes. And that is what we have seen within the last couple of days, especially in Lagos, for instance, and also in some other states like Oyo State, even in Ogun State, where even within the ruling party, you have people who believe that the governor will not come in. And we have seen that in all over, across the country. So not just in Lagos. So we have seen our governor in Lagos who is actually, he has been mocked to even that when you are not careful, when you are preparing your lunch, you may be surprised that the governor will come and serve you your dinner. And so we have seen a lot of images of the governor appearing in different places at a computer village trying to repair phones. You have seen him at Owode Oniri trying to do a lot of things. And that is what, this is the same governor who was not available for debate at different times. I think 5 different debates that he ought to have attended, citing different reasons for not gracing those debates. But you can see that today the governor is appearing everywhere. Even birthday party, you will see governor turning up at different occasions, trying to show the people that this is what he can do. But in fairness, that was actually the way he came in. But how that one turned off, we didn't know. That this is the same strategy deployed when he was coming on board in 2019. But so suddenly, he became so relaxed. But within the short period after 2020, after the NSAS game and things like that, I think the governor has been given a run for his money. And now is running kata, running kitty all over the places. That has always been what opposition brings to the table. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I like the expression of running kitty and kete. Interestingly, for me, I would say that this is a sign that, our democracy is growing and people can no longer hold on to power or not be held accountable for, the positions they held, and of course leading the people. So I see that that's the same case for Sanwo-Olu this time around. Speak to me about Vivo, the Labour Party candidate, who seemed to be the youth's favorite, if I may use that word. And I dare to say that we may be seeing the Peter Obi effect turn out tomorrow. Would that be a right assertion?
I would seriously disagree with that. We don't need to, a whole lot of persons really. I think we have done a couple of stories showing why the presidential election actually went that way in Lagos. We reported, Premium Times actually reported what played out in the presidential election and why what was recorded by the different political parties actually happened. We cannot rule out the impact of the Muslim ticket. We cannot also rule out the impact of the internal crisis within the party to some level. you could see that the kind of the work that the Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, is doing now, he did not do it before now. And that is why when you look at the case in Alimosho, which used to be a kind of a bag that usually a kind of a sure voting strength for the ruling party in the state, could not come to the presidential candidate rescue. So, but more importantly, when you look at it, like we have always said, Lagos used to be the headquarters of Pentecostal churches in Nigeria, and they did not take it lightly in terms of the campaign to have the fear that a Muslim ticket created in the people actually affected the election of the president. But it's going to be a different ball game in the governorship election. One, for two reasons. The ticket is balanced. We have a respected Muslim as a running mate, and you have a very gentle, a hardworking individual as a governorship candidate of the ruling party who is going for the second term. I think generally, apart from the stain of the NSAS, I think generally the kind of the acceptability, the capacity, the competence of Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu has not been in doubt. Unfortunately, he's running katakata, like I said before. He's running kitty because he didn't want to leave anything to chance. But at the same time, apart from the candidate of ADC, that is Funsho Duarte, who seems to have the same competence and charisma of the kind of the track record of Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I'm not sure there is any other candidate among the 17 political parties that could compete successfully, even if they just place them side by side with Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. So the candidate of Labour Party can only try. I think things can change, and it's quite very funny how the results of the presidential election actually change the dynamics. Because when you look at it, the candidate of the Labour Party actually struggled to become the running mate of the PDP candidate in Lagos before now. GRV struggled to be the running mate of Mr. Babajide Adediran Jando, who is the candidate of PDP. In fact, it was even the first major crisis that happened, the conflict between Mr. Jando and the father of PDP in Lagos, that's Mr. Bode George, because Mr. Bode George, who Mr. Vivor happens to be the child of his bosom friend, and he believed that based on that, since the two of them actually vied for the ticket, he wanted the two of them to actually meet and settle among themselves. Why he agreed that Jando should take the ticket, he also pleaded that Rose Vivor should be the running mate. But Jando felt, no, you can't impose this man on me, and he went for Funke Akindele, probably because of the sentiment. One, a lady, then two, being a thespian, a popular one for that matter. And so that was the basis. And so suddenly, within the last two weeks or 3 weeks, people are finding it very difficult to even remember Mr. Jando, that Mr. Jando is in the race again. And there is also the rumor that is a director general of his campaign has resigned. Though we are still trying to confirm that. We are aware that the man in question was part of those PDP leaders who endorsed Mr. Vivor, the Labour Party candidate, that I think Daily Trust reported that it was seen where Mr. Bode George addressed the
Mr. Labi, can you hear me?
Whether that is true or not. Am I still audible?
I lost you for a second.
Oh, I think that must be due to network. So what we have seen in Lagos is that Mr. Vivor has become the toast of the younger generation, and particularly those that some people have described as obedient, and also those that have been described as angry voters, those who are actually angry with the established system, with the dynasty of Mr. Tinubu, and they are very eager, they are very excited to uproot that dynasty. But from what we can see here, as keen observers, it is going to be very, very difficult to uproot that system. A whole lot of things have happened within the last 2-3 weeks. Many people who are not within the system have actually come back. And we have seen former governorship candidate of PDP also returning to the fold of APC. We have seen Mr. Adedosumu now declaring for APC. We have seen Mr. Moshood Salvador, who was also a Labour Party candidate, senatorial candidate on 25th February, also declaring for APC. And we have also seen somebody still dragging the ticket of Labour Party in Lagos. Mr. Awamaridi held a press conference yesterday insisting that the letter of withdrawal credited to him was not written by him, and that he was even threatening that the candidate of the Labour Party will go to jail. So that is so there are a lot of dynamics playing out in Lagos. So we need to really study the whole game. But as of now, barring last minute change of things, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu still has it very good for him. He's likely to win convincingly with a very serious margin, with wide margin. I can confidently say that, considering the fact that things are really not particularly looking at the whole game plan for now, it seems to be good for him.
Yeah, so let's quickly move over to Rivers State, which is another interesting state we're looking at for the elections, considering the role the current governor, Nyesom Wike, had played all through the presidential campaign and, of course, the elections proper. People say that he has ruined the chances of the PDP candidates of the states because, of course, people would imagine that they will be, in quotes, as tyrannical as the current governor. What is your take on this?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the river is going to be a battleground. No doubt about that. But how much? It's always very difficult to unseat a ruling government, especially when the opposition cannot come together. And that is what people have been saying. It took how many parties to come together to unseat Mr. Goodluck Jonathan in 2015? How many of them? We had CPC, we had ACN, we had part of ABGA, and we also had AMPP coming together. It was that unity of purpose that actually worked the magic. It is not that it is automatic. When you see a government that is in power, that has appointed over 200,000 aides, so it is, so definitely you are sure that the 200,000 must first of all deliver, not to talk of their house, their members of the household. But when you look at it, within the opposition party, you have the APC presenting Tony Cole. You also have one of them who left for another political party. That's what's his name? Abe, Senator Magnus Abe has gone for another party. You have Lulu Briggs in another political party, Accord Party. You even have one of the ex-Niger Delta militants in another political party, People's Rescue Movement. People's Rescue Movement or something like that, PRM. So you have a lot of them who are scattered. So it's going to create a kind of a smooth, it might not be that smooth. You have a candidate of Labour Party, and at different time we have seen Labour Party leadership saying, no, we are no longer in the race. And you have the candidate, a woman, who has insisted that she's in the race. So the party, the Labour Party, is also not together. So all these things are going to create. So if things work out the way it is, if the opposition cannot come together, it's going to create a lot of a good room for the PDP candidate. No matter what the people say, we know how things work out in Rivers State. It's always very difficult. It's a difficult terrain for even INEC to conduct elections. You talk about riverine areas, you talk about the creeks, you talk about, so the people do what they actually like, but even if you allow people to do it very well, apart from the city of Port Harcourt and a few other places, I doubt if the opposition will be able to record any victory. But if you go to Oyo State, for instance, Mr. Sheyi Makinde, who is also an ally of Mr. Wike, is struggling very well. The same opposition that combined forces to bring him to power, they are the ones now working against his interest, and they are trying to uproot him because they have tried him. You have seen the people from ADC, you have seen those who are with the former governor Ladoja, who are leaders in that state, who actually worked to bring him on board against the interest of APC in 2019. Now they are working very seriously to ensure that he leaves the party. And so it's going to be very tough. This situation is not the same. In Oyo, opposition are merging. They are coming together. Even the ruling party is going to lose a lot of people. We have seen videos of leaders of PDP saying that what the governor did during the presidential election is going to be paid back in his own coin. We have seen Mr. Bolarumi Aziz in video saying that what the governor did, it will have to be paid back. So you have seen people coming together against the governor. So it is not the same thing in Rivers State. Rivers State, the opposition is still...
I want to quickly cut you there for want of time, Mr. Alabi, to ask you, the elections is tomorrow. Isn't it too late a time for opposition to come together to tackle the incumbent government?
And that is why we are saying that it's going to be extremely difficult, except there is magic, which doesn't really play out in politics. Except there is magic, there is no way the ruling government is going to, except there have been signs of merger, there have been signs of collaboration before now. With the time that we have now, I'm not sure any state where that collaboration is not working now, like in Rivers, it is going to be difficult for the PDP candidate to be defeated. That's very clear.
Let's quickly run to Kano State to see what the two elephants, Kwankwaso and Ganduje, will be doing. We saw that Kwankwaso won Kano State with, I mean, what I like to call a very wide margin, a wider than wide margin compared to other candidates in Kano State. And of course, there are candidates running under the NNPP. And there's also the power Ganduje wields in Kano State. These are two big, powers in Kano State. How do you think that will play out?
Yeah, and that is why we cannot say that what actually transpired, the exact thing that transpired on 25th February, will be the same that will transpire tomorrow. That will be different ball games. When you look at the people who are on the ballot, Mr. Kwankwaso is from Kano. Mr. Kwankwaso contested against other candidates who are not from Kano. Mr. Kwankwaso contested against Mr. Bola Tinubu, who is a Southwesterner. He contested against Mr. Atiku, who is from Adamawa, from Northeast. So it's going to be different. And that wave of having NNPP everywhere, that happened because people were just thumbprint once you see NNPP. But this time around, the people who are contesting, it's a Kano man from APC facing a Kano man from NNPP. So definitely, it is not going to be like a blanket stuff that we experienced on February 25. So what we are likely to have is a king contest because the situation has changed. You have different individuals who are going to contest from the same place. They are all from the same environment, from the same state. So it's different from what we experienced the last time. So the kind of the complete flooding that you saw in the last election, where there was a blanket voting right for NNPP, may not happen. And whether we like it or not, power of incumbency is also something that we cannot wish away in the politics of Nigeria. The power of incumbency matters a lot, not rigging, but people who already are hitting from the system, who have their engagements, their appointees, they want to deliver their polling units because somebody from them is also on the ballot. So the person who is also the governorship candidate of APC is also an employee, is also working with the government currently. So it's going to be very tough, but it's going to be a battle. So like Rivers, we are also going to see something very, in fact, much more significant than what we will be seeing in Rivers will be happening in Kano. Kano is actually a battleground, a serious battleground.
Do you see another battleground in Enugu with Frank Nweke of ABGA, who has been in government before and seems to be a candidate for many people, and there seems to be a divide for Labour Party and, of course, the PDP in Enugu State. Is that another battleground we have in the southeast there?
Yeah, it is a battleground. I think almost all the 28 states will not be just, it's not going to be free for anybody across the 28 states where elections will be holding. But it's going to be interesting in Enugu in the sense that Labour Party will be struggling with ABGA, and the ruling party, the PDP, is also on ground in the sense that because what the experience they are, just like I explained what happened in Kano, is that the OB wave might not be able to rescue some candidates this time. We have seen the kind of the disagreement between Mr. Peter Obi and even Aisha Yesufu, an ally, who insisted that the candidate of Labour Party in Enugu was not her favorite. So what you are going to see in Enugu is the fact that you have formidable candidates who are going to share these things among themselves. You have the candidate of Labour Party, candidate of People's Democratic Party, and you also have the candidate of ABGA, Mr. Frank Nweke Jr. But unfortunately, there is also going to be a senatorial election in Enugu tomorrow. And the person who is contesting on the platform of PDP is a very strong man, that's Eba Anod, a former governor, Chimaroke Nnamani. That is also a factor. People who are going to be coming out to vote for this same individual will also have the opportunity to vote for the governors. So these are factors that will actually shape where the pendulum will swing eventually in Enugu State. So it's not going to be a straight battle. It's going to be a very complex one. But I can assure you that people will have, it's going to shake whoever is going to emerge, and it's going to actually give them some level of conscience to say that, look, if we do not do well, it seems that the people are very much ready to pursue us out of the system. Yeah, that's the likely effect that we may have from tomorrow.
In rounding up will be to ask you what you think about the Peter Obi wave. You know, it comes off similar to what we saw in 2015 with the Buharist movement, where everyone voted top to bottom for the same group of people, regardless of, you know, capacity, competence, or even exploring and x-raying what their manifesto look like. Are we seeing the same pattern, you know, with these elections that will hopefully be concluded very soon in Nigeria?
You know, unlike what was experienced in 2015, Mr. Obi is dealing with a stronger opposition. A stronger opposition not just on the battlefield, a stronger opposition in terms of rhetorics, a stronger opposition in terms of sentiment, a stronger opposition in terms of capacity and competence. You have seen, I don't know whether you read the statement of the president-elect yesterday. It's a moving, and I have tried to check the comments of Nigerians. It seems that things are changing gradually. People who doubted his capacity are beginning to give him a kind of a chance to say, it seems that this guy, when he's talking about government of national unity, and he says, no, I want to take it beyond that. I want to run a government of national competence. These are words to move the people, to arouse their sentiments. And you can see that between now and when the election held last, Mr. Obi is gradually losing that grip. We can see it. But even though he may have that grip in places like Plateau, where the party is very strong, in places like Anambra, where the party is very strong, in places like Abia, where not just the party is strong, the candidate is also very strong, where we have Alex Oti. We also have some other states, but you cannot talk of Obi wave in places like Oyo State, where the candidate is relatively unknown. You cannot talk of Obi wave in places like in Ogun State, where the candidate of Labour Party is relatively unknown. You cannot talk of Obi wave in some other places, even maybe you can have Obi wave in Delta, you can have Obi wave in Edo for their House of Assembly election, but it is not going to be that easy. Unlike in the North, where you had APC sweeping almost everywhere because they didn't even query it. You know, a lot of people were even changing the roofs of their houses in Katsina, in Kano, to the symbol of APC at that time. That is not happening now. People are enlightened. In this western, southern part, a whole lot of people are questioning so many things. And that is why you see that it's not going to be a blanket thing. Obi Wave has really tried, and we have to commend the man for running a very, very tedious campaign and for bringing it to this level. But unlike what we witnessed in 2015, it's not going to be easy like that. People are questioning a lot of things. A whole lot of people are beginning to give chance to the ruling party, and they are saying, look, we cannot afford. For instance, in Lagos, if the PDP, if somebody else had won in Lagos, it will have been, if somebody else had won, not Bola Ahmed Tinubu of APC, it could have been a very, very easy route for them in Lagos. But what they are saying, the campaign now in Lagos is that we cannot afford to run an opposition. We have been in the opposition before. Now, within the last 8 years, we knew what we had gained in terms of running with the same government, the ruling government. And they will begin to mention, is it about the this Lekki Deep Sea Port, or about the license already gotten for another airport in Lagos? So that is the campaign now. And the people are saying, look, we cannot afford to lose this. This is what we are going to experience across other states of the federation. So Obi Wave, not bad, but it's not going to be a blanket thing. No, not at all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alabi, for joining us this afternoon to explain these topics. And of course, we look forward to seeing what the outcomes of the elections will be tomorrow and how much of a third force, Labour Party would remain through the period of the election. That was Mr. Mojeed Alabi joining us from Lagos to talk about what the possible outcome of tomorrow's elections will be, given what we saw at the presidential elections last 2 weeks. Of course, we would all agree that Nigeria's democracy is growing and progressing, with people becoming more discerning than they are, and of course, people focusing on issues rather than sentiment in the upcoming elections and asking public officers for more accountability. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll be joined by Hussein Suleiman to discuss INEC's preparedness for tomorrow's elections. Stay tuned.
What I have to say is that the Nigeria election has always been what people used to say that Nigeria election is. Our votes don't normally count in this country. They used to give us just numbers of results, and that's not our votes. We all, the youth of this country, we all come out in mass because of the promises being made by so-called INEC chairman. A lot of money was given because of the preparation of this election. We came out and we vote. Our vote didn't count. In my ward, it was peaceful. But the result we are hearing is different from what we got on the polling unit there. So who is to be blamed? INEC chairman is to be blamed. Let him do the right thing if he wants the youth of this country to believe in them and vote again. What I have to say is that the Nigeria election has always been what people used to say that Nigeria election is. Our votes don't normally count in this country. They used to give us just numbers of results, and that's not our votes. We all, the youth of this country, we all come out in mass because of the promises being made by so-called INEC chairman. A lot of money was given because of the preparation of this election. We came out and we vote. Our vote didn't count. In my ward, it was peaceful. But the result we are hearing is different from what we got on the polling unit there. So who is to be blamed? INEC chairman is to be blamed. Let him do the right thing if he wants the youth of this country to believe. I don't think we are coming out to vote anymore. We are sick and tired of this our so-called ancestors ruling us all this while. We will finish out of school, no job. Our mothers will spend money, send us to school, after that, no job. Why their children are overseas. schooling, doing all manner of what they want. And we are here. Who is suffering the thing? I and you, not them. And they want to continue to take us back to another 4 years again. No, it's not possible. Our mandate must be claimed. And we believe that our vote will count.
Are you going to vote in the gubernatorial election?
Come on, how can you vote? If you are me, will you vote? I stood under the sun from morning to evening. And after that, what I got was a different result. How do you want me to come and stand under the sun? What makes you believe that INEC chairman will be fair on this coming election? What played at the presidential election will still play in the governorship. That's one thing. Because I can see that INEC chairman is not prepared. He's not prepared. Nigeria is not ready for the election.
So what is your advice for an average Nigerian youth?
Okay, my advice is that let's be calm. If you want to vote, go out there and cast your votes. It matters a lot. If you want, it's not by force. If you want, you can go out there and cast your vote. And always remember that what you got in presidential is also what you got in this governorship election. Or else, if INEC chairman wants to save this country, he will come out to announce and give the youth of this country hope that same presidential election will still count. And he will see us come out in masses and vote again. I don't think we are coming out to vote anymore. We are sick and tired of this our so-called ancestors ruling us all this while. You will finish out of school, no job. Our mothers will spend money, send us to school, after that, no job. Why their children are overseas, schooling, doing all manner of what they want. And we are here. Who is suffering the thing? I and you, not them. And they want to continue to take us back to another 4 years again. No, it's not possible. Our mandate must be claimed. And we believe that our vote will count.
Are you going to vote in the gubernatorial election?
Come on, how can you vote? If you are me, will you vote? I stood under the sun from morning to evening. And after that, what I got was a different result. How do you want me to come and stand under the sun? What makes you believe that?
Yes, it has affected it positively. It has made a lot of people to come out. We see this period as incriminating somebody, trying to prevent one person, frustrating one person. So people know the truth, and people are saying, you cannot frustrate this man. We will come off. We try to do evil, it will turn out for good. And that is the situation we are finding ourselves here. You understand? This is the first time in my life I am seeing a party in government fighting against itself. Yoruba will say Koshelemi. That's what we are seeing here. It has never happened before. But God will be our vindicator, and He will free us. Because I've never seen anywhere around the world, even in the American setting, you see Democrats even help Democrats to come into power. But here, they are frustrating yourself. I never see that kind of thing before. So that has motivated a lot of people to come out. And by the grace of God, God will vindicate us. We'll all be happy because we want a new Nigeria. You understand? It's not that we know it's not easy. We have complex people. We have different tribes and tongues. And that is our beauty, not what should divide us. We have Yoruba everywhere. We have Yoruba, we have Wari, Hausa, Igbo. Everybody here. We are not pushing anybody, say you are here. Why are they not trying to push us? Why? If some people have served, well, it's not in the constitution, yes. It's only deserving. If you do here, come and do there. So people can partake of this thing. So, let's see. We're hopeful.
President of the Nigeria Bar Association, Mr. Yakubu Mekyo, distinguished members of the Nigeria Bar Association, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to join the State of the Nation dialogue convened by the Nigeria Bar Association, NBA. The upcoming election represents a critical moment for the nation, and I thank the NBA for inviting me to this event. Nigeria is at a critical juncture for statehood building. The elections present an opportunity to unite behind a common purpose and build the trust that will allow us to collectively shape our future. As Africa's leading economy, with the biggest cohort of youth and being a security anchor for our neighbors, Nigeria cannot simply afford to fail. The only pathway for a nation to survive is sustainable development, a future that is steeped in economic, social, and environmental principles, and must be guided by the Agenda 2030 and its 17 goals. The Sustainable Development Goals can simply not be a wish list for another day. They are an urgent to-do list, a blueprint for global and local action, needed to deliver peace and prosperity and a thriving natural environment for current and future generations, essential to avert a catastrophic future of conflict and chaos. Specifically, SDG Goal 16, Peace, Justice and Strong Institutions, was designed to ensure that countries promote peaceful and inclusive societies by providing access to justice for all and building effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. I would like to focus on three main reflections. First, we must recognize the indispensable role that the judiciary and justice play in people's lives, creating a conducive environment for the fulfillment of rights in all dimensions of life. As you know, Nigeria's peace and security challenges are linked to injustice, exclusion, and increasing social inequalities, coupled with impunity for human rights violations and the lack of economic opportunities. It is crucial to ensure the protection of electoral and other institutions related to the administration of justice and to ensure justice is being served. As members of the Bar, you have a key role to play to advance the country's aspiration towards the 2030 Agenda. Second, society must be inclusive. All too often, women and youth remain left behind. Equal participation in politics is crucial for gender equality, yet the number of women vying for political offices has been in decline. Nigerian women constitute only 3.6% of the
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Premium Times Election Special. My name is Chiamaka Okafor, and I'm joined this afternoon in the studio by Kosim Suleiman, Premium Times reporter, who is bringing us update from the Independent National Electoral Commission, and we'll be speaking to him this afternoon about preparedness for tomorrow's elections across the 28 states where elections will be held tomorrow. Good afternoon, Kosim.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, our in-house INEC chairman.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you've been covering and reporting from INEC in the last month or thereabouts. And in the last 2 weeks, especially, you've had a very close-knit relationship, if I dare to say, with INEC, in the sense that you've brought us updates on everything they've done. And just recently this morning, a report published around the Adamawa State Gubernatorial candidate, Binani, whose company got a project, a contract, I beg your pardon, from INEC. And that leads me into the several questions on the minds of Nigerians, from the presidential, of course, on how much INEC did not meet its own pledges and promises to the citizens on real-time updates of results and all of that. So how does all of this feed into the narrative of INEC's lack of preparedness, many would argue, for the last presidential elections, and what changes have INEC made so far, or what new promises have they made? And I'm saying this remembering that the INEC chairman spoke about the lapses that happened in the last presidential elections, but did not exactly speak to the IREV case.
Yes, I think the issue with INEC, just when you think it cannot get, worse, you find something, because the issue with Aisha Binani, getting her company getting a contract, to produce some sensitive materials is something the commission should not, it's not a mistake that Nigerians would excuse. And this is a commission that 2 weeks ago, conducted the presidential and National Assembly elections that not just Nigerians, observer groups, both domestic and international, kind of said this did not, meet the expected requirements that it should meet. Although INEC, it would always come out. It's, it's a no-brainer that it would always come out to tell us that they are making some improvements, and they'll always, blame some logistics to technical hitches. But when this commission is not, how do I put this? When we cannot see practical improvement, because with this information coming out just yesterday, 2 days to the governorship election, it already, putting some doubt in the minds of Nigerians. The 25th February election witnessed, a record low turnout, and people have even predicted that the governorship election would even, perhaps would witness a lower turnout.
Of voters.
And this is because, when people are not confident in the commission, that is definitely what you would have. And while INEC is trying to make Nigerians confident that, okay, they postpone this election by 1 week to make sure that they get more prepared, we have this case now, and we know it will definitely affect, how a lot of people see this election. In fact, the opposition in that state would definitely bank on this, and INEC would find itself in some litigations, just as it did, post 25th February election. Now, let's look at some of the promises that INEC have made. Like INEC, perhaps one of its biggest undoing is the fact that the commission failed to upload in real time the results of polling units to the IREF portal. And many Nigerians have said the commission have always assured Nigerians that electronic transmission of results would, like, there's no going back on that in the 2023 election. But that was not what many Nigerians saw. And in fact, that was what led to, the PDP and Labour Party boycotting the collation of results. So INEC now, surprisingly, and I think it's worthy of note that INEC, since post 25th February election, INEC has not mentioned anything regarding IREF, regarding transmission of results, which, and the I don't know if I should say worrying thing, or perhaps the interesting thing about this is that section of the Electoral Act that actually talked about the transmission of results
electronically,
yes, is something that people, interpret it differently. I mean, people interpret it depending on the side where they are. I mean, even barristers, even people who, kind of understand the law, they still give different interpretation. I went through the regulations, INEC regulations. First of all, the Electoral Act did not specifically mention transmission of results. Instead, it puts that at the prerogative of the commission. And then in its guidelines, INEC mentioned that there would be electronic transmission of results.
But I think that was contained in the Electoral Act. I can't quote verbatim what section of it, but I know I read it in the Electoral Act, although it did not give a specific name as IREF, but it talked about uploading results electronically
to a portal.
A portal, exactly. And they developed IREF for us to see. Now, many people have said that INEC overpromised on what its deliverables will be, and by shooting itself in the leg, and that was what we saw play out at the presidential elections. I mean, some people say, aside from that, INEC actually delivered on, the functions of the beavers, because people could get scanned and vote in real time. People had little or no challenges with the beavers, except on cases where they were snatched and not delivered in real time. So are you also of the opinion that INEC actually overpromised? Are we not capable enough to deliver on the kind of promises that INEC made for the 25th February elections?
I think it always boils down to the lack of preparedness. A few weeks to the election, we saw the INEC chairman shuttling between the offices of the Central Bank Governor to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL now. And he's meeting these men, seeking their partnership, that there's a cash crunch in the country. He met the CBN governor and asked him to provide cash for the commission to actually pay for logistics in, situation where electronic payments would not be possible, which, well, many Nigerians, we feel like, okay, this is the commission trying to make sure that this election is as seamless as possible. He went to the NNPC, and the NNPC promised to, use all of their depot and all of their mega stations across the country to store the fuel for a vehicle that would be, working for the election duty. Yet, on election morning, we saw how some, drivers are complaining about not being paid, and that they must be paid in cash, and they need to buy fuel. So it's, it would make you ask what exactly happened to the partnership between the INEC chairman and the CBN as well as the NNPC, and bearing in fact in mind that the INEC chairman also met with the leadership of this transport union. So because these drivers are not just contracted from the streets, they were contracted through the leadership of their union. So what happened to this deal? These are some questions that you tend to wonder what happened. So it's always boiled down to the lack of preparedness. While maybe on the surface you think that INEC is prepared, when you go deep down in the real issue, you just find that there are just some lapses in the preparation.
So I want us to quickly, x-ray the INEC chairman's comments or the speech he gave post 25th February's election and all the things he said about the elections and what we should expect. I mean, I felt like, he was making new promises and explaining to us why this had happened and assuring us that the process will continuously remain transparent and credible. So can we look through, that statement to see what is missing for you in that statement?
Well, the first thing that I would say is missing is what I think I highlighted earlier. It's about the electronic transmission of results. The commission has avoided making any comments regarding that. And also he made mention of something that, which is, I mean, this is something many people would know. This election would be more keenly, contested than even the presidential election, because this is local election that's local actors and people who are closer to the people are contesting. And this would be more, and it's even more widespread because we have election holding in 28 states. And in each of these 28 states, in total, we have about 419 candidates contesting in these 28 states. And in all of the 36 states, about 993, constituencies, that's the state's houses of assembly. So there are just more than 1,000 constituencies. I mean, the 25th February was just about a little over 400 constituencies in total. This time around, it's over 1,000. So sometimes when you look at it, you wonder how, if INEC could not conduct a seamless election during the 25th February election that actually, has to do with just about a little over 400 constituencies. But now there are over 1,000, and the security is also an issue, even though the National Security Advisor was saying that the police and all the security agencies would be at alert. But it is still a worry because this election is not just even, the security worry is not even only about terrorists or terrorist group. Right now, in many states, we are seeing something that could be some kind of ethnic tension rising. And this is also sparking some fears.
Yeah. I mean, for a little comic relief here will be to say that some people said, oh, the bandits and all the unscrupulous elements had to wait, they had to pause and go to elections to come before they continued what they, their usual business. And I want to read a quote from the INEC's chairman's statement to say that the commission has enough facilities in all the states of the federation. Failure to deploy them is simply inexcusable, he said.
Well,
and then I say this also to help us look at the reality of INEC offices in different states, especially states where they've had, their offices burnt down, being attacked time and time again. Anambra is a case in study for me because, of course, tomorrow the House of Assembly elections will hold in Anambra, and other states, rather, I beg your pardon, that have hotspots where people can't even access, where people are scared to go out to vote. Do you think that we would not see a repetition of, a couple of the glitches we saw, if not worse, right? We saw in the states during the presidential elections, ranging from snatching of the beavers to late arrival to, and I'm thinking outright, elections not even holding at all because people don't have access to these places.
To not express that fear would actually not acknowledging the reality on ground, actually, because this is something that have been happening. INEC made this same promise before the 25th February elections, saying they have these facilities. When these facilities were being attacked, INEC always say that everything being destroyed in those facilities are being replaced. That's the promise. So it is completely inexcusable for INEC to, to use that as an excuse. So they know that that's not an excuse to give Nigerians, because it has always said that it will always replace anything that was burnt. In fact, at some point, the commission deployed sensitive materials to some states where there is relative peace ahead, and the places where the commission suspect that there could be violence or anything of such, it kind of delayed the deployment of these sensitive materials. As we speak now, yesterday, Thursday, I learned that sensitive materials are already being distributed to local governments in Gombe State, and definitely in other states where the commission did not expect anything, any violence or any insecurity issue. But then this is a promise that INEC have always made to Nigerians, and we saw them fail on that promise during the 25th February election. But I mean, this postponed election for 18th March, which will be coming up tomorrow, it would be a test for INEC to actually, it's a test for INEC to actually redeem itself from all what Nigerians have been saying against them, and not just Nigerians, even some observer groups who, condemn INEC for the conduct of the election.
Yeah, thank you, Kosim. Before I let you go, is to ask you, what are you hearing from your sources within the Electoral Commission's system about how prepared they are, how seamless tomorrow's process will be? And of course, this time we're not expecting the results to come up to the national level. Recs at their various states would have to announce the results. So what are we expecting in terms of transparency, coordination, and everything elections tomorrow?
Well, the thing is, people within the commission will always, should I say, share optimistic stories, or optimistic. They always share optimistic
views.
Yes, with people. That's what you always, until maybe when things are getting out of hand. For example, and in Sokoto, I learned that the rec there was changed. No, and not just in Sokoto, in other states. But INEC is not making this public, actually. But the commission actually changed some resident electoral commissioners in some states. Now, and talking about states like Sokoto State particularly during 25th February election, apart from the presidential election, the National Assembly election, all the three senatorial state seats in Sokoto State was not declared because there's a case of overvoting and intimidation actually, coming up. And this election would actually be holding alongside the governorship and State House of Assembly elections tomorrow. And I mean, we are on the lookout to see how INEC performance would be.
Thank you very much, Kosim, for those contributions you brought to the discussion today. That was Kosim Suleiman, Premium Times reporter, who's been covering INEC in the past months, and of course has been following the news coming out of there very closely. Of course, tomorrow, 28 states would go to the polls to elect new governors and new members of the House of Assembly, and some, of course, would also hold elections on the side for the National Assembly, which wasn't held on the 25th of February in their various locations. And we're on the lookout, of course, cases of lack of transparency, over-promising and not delivering from INEC have rung very loud across the country. And we're hoping that by tomorrow, INEC will make good its new promises or its old promises, however they want that to be, to, of course, get the trust of Nigeria, gain the trust of Nigerians once again, I beg your pardon, leading into tomorrow's elections, and of course to promote and expand progress our democratic process as a country. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll be discussing fake news, fact-checking, misinformation and disinformation in Nigeria's electoral cycle with Lois Ubede of Dubawa. Stay tuned.
I don't think we are coming out to vote anymore. We are sick and tired of this our so-called ancestors ruling us all this while. You finish out of school, no job. Our mothers will spend money, send us to school, after that, no job. Why their children are overseas, schooling, doing all manner of what they want, and we are here. Who is suffering the thing? I and you, not them. And they want to continue to take us back to another 4 years again. No, it's not possible. Our mandate must be claimed, and we believe that our vote will count.
Are you going to vote in the gubernatorial election?
Come on, how can you vote? If you are me, will you vote? I stood under the sun from morning to evening, and after that, what I got was a different result. How do you want me to come and stand under the sun? What makes you believe that INEC chairman will be fair on this coming election? What played at the presidential election will still play in the governorship. That's one thing. Because I can see that INEC chairman is not prepared. He's not prepared. Nigeria is not ready for the election.
So what is your advice for an average Nigerian youth?
Okay, my advice is that let's be calm. If you want to vote, go out there and cast your votes. It matters a lot. If you want, it's not by force. If you want, you can go out there and cast your vote. And always remember that what you got in presidential is also what you got in this governorship election. Or else, if INEC chairman wants to save this country, he will come out to announce and give the youth of this country hope that same presidential election will still count. And he will see us come out in masses and vote again. I don't think we are coming out to vote anymore. We are sick and tired of this our so-called ancestors ruling us all this while. You finish out of school, no job. Our mothers will spend money, send us to school, after that, no job. Why their children are overseas, schooling, doing all manner of what they want, and we are here. Who is suffering the thing? I and you, not them. And they want to continue to take us back to another 4 years again. No, it's not possible. Our mandate must be claimed, and we believe that our vote will count.
Are you going to vote in the gubernatorial election?
Come on, how can you vote? If you are me, will you vote? I stood under the sun from morning to evening, and after that, what I got was a different result. How do you want me to come and stand under the sun? What makes you believe that INEC chairman will be fair on this coming election? What played at the presidential election will still play in the governorship. That's one thing. Because I can see that INEC chairman is not prepared. He's not prepared. Nigeria is not ready for the election.
So what is your advice for an average Nigerian youth?
Okay, my advice is that let's be calm. If you want to vote, go out there and cast your votes. It matters a lot. If you want, it's not by force. If you want, you can go out there and cast your vote. And always remember that what you got in presidential is also what you got in this governorship election. Or else, if INEC chairman wants to save this country, he will come out to announce and give the youth of this country hope that same presidential election will still count. And he will see us come out in masses and vote again. I don't think we are coming out to vote anymore. We are sick and tired of this our so-called ancestors ruling us all this while. You finish out of school, no job. Our mothers will spend money, send us to school, after that, no job. Why their children
Welcome to Elections 101 in 5. Improving your understanding of Nigeria's electoral process and the 2022 Electoral Act is our major goal, and we hope we've been achieving this goal because on this program, we focus on how and not who to vote. This show is brought to you by Yaga Africa and supported by the UNDP. I am Samson Itodo. Today's topic is actually an interesting one, so grab a seat and let's get started. What happens if the BVAS fails to accredit a voter on election day? That is our question for tonight. And this is how some Nigerians responded to this question. Take a listen.
They'll find all alternative to make it work.
I'll just go back home.
But if it doesn't work, I have to raise the alarm because we need to vote.
It's better we do it manually since you have your PVC.
Very interesting. I love Nigeria. Effective electoral technologies build confidence and trust in the voters. And yes, the BVAS has got people talking since its introduction, and it has been tested, it's been scrutinized in different elections this year and even last year. So from all indication, the device has come to stay, and INEC says there's no going back on the use of BVAS for the 2023 elections, and a lot of Nigerians actually support INEC in this regard. Now, that has been established. So as a voter, you must know that you cannot vote next year without accreditation. And it's based on provisions of the Electoral Act, because the Act is very clear that accreditation is a precondition for voting in next year's election. And the BVAS that will be used for that election, according to what INEC said, is being deployed to some states and regions across the entire country. So it's important, very important to note that without accreditation, you may and you will not be able to vote next year. So your PVC has to be authenticated and your biometrics verified using the BVAS before you can vote next year. So to respond to the question, what happens if BVAS fails to accredit a voter? Based on the provisions of the Electoral Act and the guidelines, which requires a voter to undergo accreditation using the BVAS, if the BVAS fails to accredit you, this is what the INEC guideline says. That where a voter's fingerprints and facial identity cannot be matched with the details in the BVAS after 3 trials, the voter shall not be allowed to vote. So the presiding officer will try 3 times to match your details, your particulars, and what is on the BVAS. And where it does not match after 3 trials, you will not be allowed to vote. So that is what happens where the BVAS fails to accredit a voter. Please note, there shall be no incident forms for manual accreditation of voters in the 2023 elections and beyond. Now, to understand how BVAS works, you can watch the last episode of the program. You can also watch other episodes where crucial aspects of Nigeria's Electoral Act were dissected. We would also like to hear from you, so reach out to us on any of the social platforms on your screen. Now you know what happens when the BVAS fails to accredit a voter. Remember, PVC collection starts on the 12th of December 2022 and it will end on Sunday 22nd January 2023. Please visit the INEC local government offices between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. daily, including Saturdays and Sundays, to collect your PVC, because no PVC, no accreditation, no voting. And that's Elections 101 in 5. Thank you for watching. I am Samson Itodo. Remember, your vote can make a significant difference. Please.
Welcome back. This is Premium Times Election Special, and I am Chiamaka Okafor. And for this segment, we will be talking about misinformation, disinformation, what we popularly call fake news, of course, around here. which has become almost a household problem all over the world, and Nigeria is no exception. Just yesterday, we saw a video or a picture rather of Olumide Dowu, who is the Labour Party candidate for in Lagos State. A video of him with blood stains on his face, and people allege that he was being attacked. That video, that picture rather, I beg your pardon, was from last year, 3rd October 2022. A movie set actually, because of course Mr. Idowu is an actor and people ran with the narrative that he's been attacked. And of course that was another platform to say vote LP top to bottom. This has been a problem, especially political propaganda, political disinformation, intentionally to misguide people and lead them in the wrong direction. And we've seen that time and again happen throughout this period of the elections. I'm joined by Lois Ugwede, who is a researcher for Dubawa, a fact-checking platform in 5 West African countries, and also based in Nigeria here. Dubawa is under the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, and Lois Ugwede will join us. Is joining us, of course, or has joined us this afternoon to talk about misinformation, disinformation around the electoral cycle and what Dubawa will be doing to help the process starting tomorrow. And of course, what they have been doing around fake news in Nigeria and other 4 West African countries in Africa. Good afternoon, Lois.
Good afternoon, Amaka.
I think I'm a little mesmerized by your presence. The researcher in your portfolio is putting me on my toes, and I'm making sure that I have my facts and figures right so that I don't get fact-checked after this. So yesterday, Olumide's picture surfaced, with what looked like blood stains. And for me, who is privileged to understand that, fake news is a thing, and people use it in their best interest, however they feel like using it. And I saw that this was makeup. But I got on Twitter to see that people were sharing it, and even on WhatsApp, oh, he's been attacked. What was his crime? Simply for being a Labour Party candidate. And I asked myself, how are we unable to see that this is makeup? This looks like tomato paste. Is this what your blood looks like? And I know that Dubawa has fact-checked this already. How did you go about that process? And tell me more of your finding. I know I've gone ahead to preempt you, but please.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Amaka. So it's funny how we tend to spread things that align with our beliefs. And I think that's what just came to play in this particular claim. Seeing that picture yesterday, I just at the first glance knew that this is not recent. It wasn't even real. And it felt like something, knowing that he was an actor, I was like, I'm sure this has appeared somewhere before. And just doing a keyword search or reverse image search didn't help. So I probably would think maybe some tried, and because they didn't see the image, but for the basic researcher knowledge would not see, but an advanced reverse image search will actually show where the image came from. And then just going through the person's profile. I mean, if you hear something about someone or a person, the first thing you want to do is, did this person say anything about it on Twitter, on Instagram? I mean, today, politicians are active on their social media platforms. So that's the first call. And I think the major thing that we used to debunk that was his Instagram handle. We saw that way back in October 2022, he had published or uploaded the image saying it was from a movie production.
Interesting. And there are a couple of other fact checks I know you have done. And I think a recent one was on the Delta State governorship elections. Sonny Ofehe gave some wrong death figures. And when I saw that, I smiled. I said, yeah, Dubawa at it again. So, and for me, I think, there's an awakening, a consciousness that fact-checking has put in the minds of politicians. So when people say go and verify stuff, they want to make sure that what they are saying is correct. But even at that, there are people who intentionally want to bamboozle their audience with wrong, especially wrong figures. So tell me, I don't know which of your team members did, the fact checks on the Delta State governorship elections, but tell me about other fact checks you've done around that particular debate and what your findings were, and do you see a pattern?
So, okay, for debates, I think it has become a culture, a kind of culture where we try to verify live debates now, and politicians are becoming more aware and conscious. People who would normally boycott debates are beginning to see it as a platform to show their credibility. And I'm happy about that. Like you rightly said, because people now use the cliche, go and verify, you can verify. Sometimes they bluff because they assume that if they say go and verify, you would not actually want to verify. But we've seen a pattern where even people who say go and verify, we find that it's either misleading or it's outrightly false. So that's the pattern we have seen in live debates. And then sometimes a mix of true, there's a mix of false. So it's best to always come with an open mind. Do not assume, oh, because this person has in the past shared claims that are true, their claims will always be true. And then, but the major challenge I see for us as researchers is the lack of data, which is a problem for us in Nigeria. Because we had some claims from the debate from Delta that we could not verify because we didn't have the data to outrightly say this is false or this is true. So sometimes we let go of claims and because we cannot outrightly say this is false or true, because we do not want to put out what's the point of verifying and looking into something and coming out to say we don't know whether it's true or false. I mean, the public is expecting you to tell me whether it is true or false, and you're coming out to say, oh, we didn't have sufficient evidence to do this. So most times we prefer not to just publish them. And if we get evidence in the future, we can also put out a full report explaining the content and why we need the facts out.
Interesting. I want you to speak to me next about political propaganda, which is a part of the, the larger information disorder we see. And a trend I've paid attention to is how they're now paid smear campaigns, political campaigns against people vying, their supporters, or people who are prominent and would influence decisions. Case in point would be the MIT issue with the Labour Party candidate of Lagos, where people said, oh, this guy did not actually go to MIT, it's just a front. And we saw on Twitter how that became a conversation about, his certification, which is great. But I would imagine that when you want to come to the table for arguments, you should come with facts so that you don't end up looking, not correct. And then when that was fact checked, I saw that Premium Times published that, this guy actually, when MIT came to say this guy was our student. What other smear campaigns, political propaganda have Dubawa seen? And I'm sure you might have noticed the trend. I remember I read a report or analysis done by Kemi Busari and Silas Jonathan on how politicians employ different strategies, bots, and parody accounts to do the dirty job for them. And Twitter has become a playing ground for political propaganda. So tell me what kind of patterns you've noticed. So let's keep it to the presidential elections and what will happen tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. I think propaganda has become a tool for so many people, and the fact that Nigerians are emotional people, religious, and we have our biases, they play on that. So most times people are not looking out for the facts, looking out for things that align with their belief and their biases, and that's the only reason why I think such things should fly. I mean, just for the governorship election tomorrow, the deputy governorship candidates for Labour Party.
The one picture.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, looking at that picture, I know makeup does a lot to change your face, but looking at that picture, I knew this is not the same person. But as a fact checker, you do not want to just assume, you want to have your facts to put out there. Can I just say, oh, the picture does not look like her? How do you know it doesn't look like her? That's where you begin to convince the people with facts and the tools or research you have done. And I feel like a lot of Nigerians are becoming aware. They feel like they are woke, in quotes, but then the woke is being manipulated now without them knowing. Like, you just feel like you want to be loud, you want to speak, you have a voice, and you're speaking without any form of research or facts or even understanding of the issue at hand. So, and it leads a lot of them to share misinformation and even fall into the trap of being a tool for propaganda on social media.
I want you to speak more too. So I was going to come to the lady, the shisha picture, and how she became the same person who is the deputy governorship candidate for Labour Party. And I want you to speak to this because these issues are surrounding women's political participation. We have people who are in governance today that have shady records, whether confirmed or not, people who have cases in court, different cases. And I mean, I'm not here to say, oh, you smoke shisha or whatever, but you are a consenting adult and above the age of 18. So you should know your left from your right, what's wrong and right, what's good for you and what's not. And a lot of our politicians smoke in different places, and no male politician, if I recollect very well, has been called out or hung or brought to social media for trial for smoking. And then people go extra mile to bring a false image, put it side by side, a lady who was there to come up, show her face in politics. So tell us how you verified this image. I almost fell for it. I'll be honest, I almost fell for it until I kept asking questions, and then the fact check you guys did came up. Like, great, this is it.
Okay, so I would not blame you if you say you almost fell for it. It was a difficult one for us to verify. A reverse image search didn't work. Everything we did. So luckily, we saw someone who came up to say, I know this lady, and I shared the image first, and this is not the same person as a candidate. We also saw that the image had been used on Facebook about 5 days before, about people talking about women, wives, and all of that, beside a tray of food, trying to sell the narrative that what women are supposed to be homely, be in their house, do this, and now being, and all of that. And then I reached out to him. Okay, can you share the name of this person? Can I reach out to this person, or even get her profiles on social media so I can check other pictures and compare? And then he was skeptical. He didn't want her name out there and all of that. This is a private citizen. And I understood with him because she's a private citizen and she's not the one running for office. So we focused on the person running for office. We saw her tweets to debunk it. We reached out to the Twitter user who said that. So we had to now do a close comparison on forensically. We put her picture beside the picture of the lady, compared features, the eyes, the nose, the cheek. How does it look? Is there any similarity? And obviously there was none. And I don't know why people would even want to play up that propaganda. And I remember it became a discussion, people talking about, oh, why are they calling her out? Other politicians, like you said, do worse. And people can say, oh, because she's a woman, she's being sidelined or dragged because she's a woman. We know that that comes to play too. But if you decide to run for office, I also think too there's a level of public accountability you have to put forth. And that was the reason why we did the fact check. Because even after the fact check, some people came up to say, we don't have what to do. Why did we verify it? We just wanted to. I mean, today you do a check and you're the enemy of obedience. Tomorrow you do a check. Oh, and they're healing you and all of that. But you should be ready for those backlashes.
Interesting. Tell us the kind of work DUA plans to do tomorrow around the governorship elections and the House of Assembly elections that will be held in 28 states of the Federation.
All right, so we're just going to run on the same work plan we had for the presidential election. Knowing fully well that misinformation or disinformation runs even before the election day, we're already working. We have people running sheets today who will be verifying misinformation that will come up before the election. And we've like some of the claims we are talking about are some of the things we've encountered. And tomorrow we'll also be doing the same thing with our situation room in Abuja, Lagos, and the UK, trying to gather claims, media monitoring to see what people are discussing, what are they sharing, which is true, which is false, which is suspicious, or going to trigger people to violence, and try to put the right information out there. A lot of this comes with a lot of pressure, but as much as possible, we'll try to put out the right content with the right facts as soon as we can. Because another thing we've seen is people saying, we sent you this to verify, you haven't done anything about it, and it's still trending, people are discussing about it. You do not want to get pressured and fall into the trap of rushing to do something just to please your audience, and you fall into the trap of putting out something that's wrong.
It's interesting that, people expect you to play God all knowing at different times, even when they know full well that you're human beings. To round up the session will be to ask you to say final words to Nigerians as they go about the activities for states where there are no elections and for states where there are elections tomorrow. And of course, going forward, because the fake news phenomenon, misinformation, or I'll rather say information, this other phenomenon has come to stay and has even become more pronounced with the help of technology. So what take home, sleep on it kind of words would you give to Nigerians today?
Okay, so I was basically just say be skeptical about everything you come across online and offline, even people you trust, because sometimes there's a thin line between misinformation and disinformation, and sometimes we become misinformants without even knowing it. So be skeptical about what you come across online. Always take a step back to verify and check other sources. Where you can't, reach out to organizations that can, like Dubawa, the Fact Checkers Coalition, and other news platforms that are now into fact checking. It will not stop. Misinformation will not go away. It will not go out of trend. It continues to evolve. So we must keep an open mind that people will try to share propaganda or false information. And what worked for you yesterday, your verification means yesterday, might not be the same thing today. So
Thank
keep
you.
an open mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank
Lois.
you.
You've heard it directly from Lois Ugbede, who is a researcher at Dubawa, who says, keep an open mind, be wary of what you consume. Your wokeness might not be the solution. It might not save you always, but your wokeness should lead you to ask questions every time on what is, what could be, and what is not. So always ask the questions of who, where, when, why, what, and how are the important questions to ask every day. And this doesn't end with the election cycle in Nigeria. Misinformation will continue. Like Lloyd said, it has come to stay. It's not going anywhere. If anything, it is advanced. It is changing its mode of operation and appearance. So we need to pay attention. And as good citizens and patriotic citizens of Nigeria and of the world as well, we want to make sure not to share things we cannot verify, things we're not sure where they came from. And I mean, if we do that, we save ourselves the stress of an inferno in no distant time. This has been an interesting conversation all day long with our various guests, and it's great that tomorrow we'll go to the polls, and hopefully this phase of elections in Nigeria will come to a close in the coming week, and we can proceed to seeing what the new government has in stock for Nigerian citizens, and hoping that our lives will get better by the day. This has been Premium Times Election Special. Stay tuned with us for more coverage of the elections tomorrow. My name is Chema Kapo. Thank you.